recording. All right, it is 7 p.m. and I'd like to call this meeting to order. While this meeting is being held in person, we are also offering the option for the public to participate through Zoom if preferred. Instructions on how to participate virtually are included in the City Council calendar item listed on the front page of missionks.org. Please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Justin, please call the roll.
Aiden Chomposi.
Here.
Loudon.
Here.
Ryherd. Kring. Schmid. Carpenter Davis.
Here.
Josie. Here.
All right. We have two public hearings this evening. The first is related to tax increment financing redevelopment plan for 5665 Foxridge, which was continued from the February 19th, 2025 meeting. I will now officially open the public hearing. Ms. Smith, will you please begin your presentation?
I will, Mayor. I should have caught you ahead of
Oh.
time. I'm wondering if, I know we have one guest here for one of our special presentations.
Oh,
for the
yes.
proclamations.
Do we want to move that
And I
up first?
wondered if you wanted to do that so they didn't need to sit through two public hearings. I believe we have someone here for our 7 days supportive city.
Yes.
proclamation.
Do we want to do all of our special presentations first then? Keep them together?
Sure. That would probably be, they're quick.
Okay, we'll jump ahead to our special presentations and go back to our public hearing. So we do have 3 special presentations this evening. The first is a proclamation recognizing 7 days, make a ripple, change the world. 7 days overcomes hate by promoting kindness and understanding through education and dialogue. This year, 7 days marks its 11th anniversary of promoting kindness. You can find opportunities on how to participate by visiting their website, www.7days.org. Together, we can make a ripple of kindness to change the world. I am pleased to welcome, is it Matt Rice? Yep, in the back there to accept the 7-day supportive city proclamation. And thank you to all the members of the organization for the work you are doing to promote kindness.
If I could say something just really fast.
Quick picture with you and the mayor.
Yes, well, first of all, Mayor and City Council, thank you all for designating Mission as a 7 days kindness city. As a resident of Mission, it actually means quite a bit to me that you're doing that. And Mayor, you actually said most of my words that I was going to say tonight, so you've made my job just a little bit easier. So I'm thankful. I just want to mention that hate is learned, but so is kindness. And we're born with the capacity for love and compassion. And 7 days strives to nurture these qualities through education and dialogue. We seek not only to engage with the youth in our community, but to provide them with opportunities to personally and academically grow. And our hope is to spur more thought, proactive kindness development among our young people, whether it's through our art competition, kindness action scholarship, or kindness youth leadership team. And I actually brought a folder with a lot of resources for kids and adults as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Yeah.
We just
like
that.
Quite soft smile on the back.
I usually.
I ham it out. No, I'm teasing. Whoopsers.
All right, our second special presentation tonight is a proclamation which recognizes Fair Housing Month in Mission. This April marks 58 years since the signing of the Federal Fair Housing Act. It is important that we recognize and raise awareness of each individual's rights under fair housing. We are committed to equal housing opportunities in our community, and I am honored to proclaim April as Fair Housing Month in Mission. Our final special presentation tonight is a presentation by Parks and Recreation Director Penn Almany to present the 2025 Championship Tree Award. Penn, will you please make your presentation?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So our Championship Tree Program is one of a few programs that help us qualify for Tree City USA designation annually. So we gather nominations throughout the course of the year, and then every December, our Parks, Recreation, and Tree Commission vote those nominations and choose the championship tree. And so this year's winner was nominated by Mike Jensen, who's a non-resident. He nominated the red maple in the northeast corner of Pearl Harbor Memorial Park. And his comment was, whenever I visit the Mission Park, it stands so majestic and proud. It reminds me of our servicemen and comrades. It's a great symbol of our country's strength. And so for that reason, it was chosen as the 2024 championship tree for
Excellent.
Mission. And we will install that later this month.
Great. All right, we will now go back to our public hearings. So first, we will officially open the public hearing for 6665 Foxridge. And Laura, will you please begin your presentation?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Sorry, I threw you that
No
while
worries.
I wasn't on my game. So we have a presentation this evening. I know we've been talking about this project for several months, but we thought that this evening I will run through kind of just a summary of a project overview, a refresher about the tax increment financing tool, the financial analysis that was done for the project, and then the specific terms in the redevelopment agreement. So you have that all encapsulated in one presentation this evening. Mr. Will Block and Mr. Vince Kuzi, representing the developer, are here this evening and would be happy, I'm sure, to stand for any questions if you have them either during the public hearing or later when we consider the ordinance on your agenda. So next slide, please. So I think we're all familiar with the fact that a preliminary and final development plan has been approved for a Class A multifamily project with approximately 307 units over podium parking located at the former JCPenney call center site at 5665 Foxridge. The project is intended to include a mix of studio 1, 2, and 3-bedroom units with an anticipated total project cost of $114.7 million. That does include land acquisition. The project will include a clubhouse, a fitness center, an outdoor pool, and other related amenities for the residents. The ground floor units have been designed to really interact with the street and the sidewalk network along that corridor. The project seeks to prioritize infill development, promoting walkability by including higher density within that core urbanized or suburbanized area, and incorporating some enhanced sustainability features intended to improve the long-term building performance. So as I mentioned, total estimated project costs at a little over 114 million. Total TIF eligible costs are 28.2 million. But we've talked about and we'll review again here this evening that total estimated TIF revenues over the life of a 20-year term are only estimated to generate about $19.5 million in TIF revenues. Next slide, please. Next, you've seen all of these perspectives before. This is the entry plaza perspective from Metcalf. So this is where what people driving down Metcalf would see, and this would be the entrance, leasing office, et cetera. This is the northeast corner. So we would be standing at the corner of 56th and Broadmoor. Next slide, Broadmoor looking to the south. You'll see there the white car in the foreground would be the entrance to the parking underneath the building. Next slide. This is Broadmoor looking north. So the Broadmoor Park would be on the right in this slide. Next slide. And this is the south facade, and this is just demonstrating some of the patio units there and how those could actually and will actually walk out onto the sidewalk, again, sort of complementing that interaction with the street. Next, we wanted to talk a little bit about tax increment financing, and I think my voice is holding out, Kevin, so I'll go with it unless you're dying to come up. We just wanted to talk a little bit about what the TIF or tax increment financing tool is. It's a redevelopment tool that's used for industrial, commercial, residential, and intermodal transportation projects. It uses incremental property tax revenues, sales tax, and transient guest tax to pay certain eligible costs. In this project, we are only talking about the incremental property tax revenues. Revenues are used to pay for redevelopment project costs, either by paying for bonds or on a pay-as-you-go basis. This project, the reimbursements would be on a pay-as-you-go basis. Eligible areas, when using TIF, you have a conservation area, which is based on the age of the buildings or the structures, a determination of blight, or a pre-1992 enterprise zone. This TIF district was formed in 2017, and it was formed on the basis of the conservation area. Under TIF, the eligible costs include land acquisition, site work, and horizontal infrastructure, parking, landscaping, and vertical construction costs are generally ineligible. Next slide, please. So the base year, I think everybody's familiar, base year and the tax increment. So the base year is the assessed valuation on the date the district was established. So in this case, that was 2017 in relationship to another project. And the district has been in place since then. The tax increment then are the property taxes that are collected in excess of that base value, and it begins upon establishment of the district. So since 2017, we have been generating a nominal amount of revenue in the TIF district. It has not been spent because there is not an approved project plan. At the time, there has been a change in the law, but at the time this TIF district was established, there are certain mills that are excluded or ineligible to be captured in that TIF increment for this project. That is 20 mills for the school district and 1.5 mills for the state of Kansas. And then those TIF revenues, as they are collected and distributed by the county, is distributed and deposited in a separate TIF fund, and those monies can only be used upon adoption of a TIF project plan. The next slide is really just kind of a visual representation of that. So you have your base year collections, your excluded mill levies, and then the property tax increment is what is available to be distributed. In this case, which we'll touch on later, it will be shared between the developer and the city. The TIF process is a two-step process. The first step is establishing the district. As I mentioned, that was completed in 2017. That establishes the geographic boundaries, sets the base year assessed value, and begins collection of the increment. The second step is the adoption of a TIF project plan, and that's what we are considering at this point in time. So it can be multiple project areas or plans within a specific district. In this instance, it is one project plan for one specific parcel. It allows for and permits the spending of those TIF funds, an increment that's generated, and that's what begins the 20-year statutory TIF clock. Next, we'll kind of hit the financial analysis and overview, and Mr. Kimmel is online. So if we have questions for him, he is available. But as I think everyone is familiar, anytime we have a request for incentives from a developer, we bring together our team of consultants, financial advisor, bond counsel, internal staff, and most recently a sustainability consultant to really look at and evaluate the project so we can bring back a recommendation to you. So in the analysis that was performed by Mr. Kimmel, he has confirmed the overall validity and viability of the project budget, the operating projections, financing plan. You had a detailed memo from him, I believe, back in November that's been included in the packet. Again, for this evening, the project did demonstrate a profitability gap, which creates the rationale for city assistance via the requested IRB sales tax exemption and the TIF reimbursement. So, but for the use of the incentives, could we reasonably expect the developer or a developer to build this project? And he has verified the developer's commitment to the deal terms, including the phased allocation of the pay-go TIF between the developer and the city, and the proposed sustainability elements and certification. One of the other things that is a piece of his analysis, next slide, please, is we look at really a target IRR. So what in the market would we expect a developer to be looking to earn, to recover on a project like this? Their target is roughly 16 to 18%. Typical target at this point, which is measured at a hypothetical sale after year 10 of operations. You may recall that in previous conversations, that doesn't mean they will sell at 10 years, but it's a way to calculate and determine that IRR. Although through Mr. Kimmel's evaluation, their estimated IRR with the incentives and the city's priorities before any additional development efficiencies is identified at just 11.5%, so really below the target. The next two slides are difficult to read here. They were included in your packet, and I'll touch on those when we get to the specifics of the terms in the development agreement. But essentially what we're recommending to you for consideration this evening is consideration of a base case, which is essentially driven by the sustainability credits. So incentivizing the developer with a higher percentage of revenue, so a 90, in 5-year increments, 90, 85, 80, 60% going to the developer, the remaining balance going to the city. So this will show you under that. And so this would be if they achieved either LEED Silver or 2 Green Globe certification with specific criteria that were outlined in the development agreement that gets us to that apples to apples comparison between LEED and Green Globes. So you can kind of see in that, and the IRB origination fee, if they attain the sustainability credits, would be $350,000 paid at the time of the issuance of the IRBs. If the developer, they still have to achieve 2 Green Globes or the LEED Silver. Although if they attain LEED Silver, they'll get the base case. They still would have to obtain Green Globes under any of the circumstances. If they obtain 2 globes without meeting the specific criteria, that incentive is reduced. And so that would transition to a cost share of 90, 85, 75, 50%. And the IRB origination fee would increase from $350,000 to $500,000. Next slide. Current revenues from the project site. I know that's been important for us as we've looked at projects. The current base assessed value for that property is $312,265. That, again, was captured in 2017 when the TIF district was established. If we look at that base value times our current mill rate of 18.507, we're currently generating in property tax revenue about $5,779 off of that property. Now, there's a stormwater utility fee, which is also being generated, which would remain and is not subject to the terms of the TIF agreement. But so less than $6,000 a year right now. So if we extrapolate that and don't get fancy with any sort of growth over a 20-year period, which would be equivalent to the TIF term, we would get about $144,000 in property tax revenues from that. Estimated, if we look at the base case, which is the sustainability credits with the specific criteria, the city would receive about 4.6, almost $4.7 million. And in the penalty case, about $5.5 million. Now, those city funds may only be spent sort of in and around that TIF district, but we also know there are some significant expenses related to Metcalf improvements and some other things that we could certainly use those revenues for. And the, as I understand it, the IRB origination fee could be spent on economic development activity, not necessarily, I'm going to look over my shoulder, within the district? Yes, okay. Okay, then just a quick overview of the redevelopment agreement, since this packet was the first time you saw all of those specific terms. So what is a redevelopment agreement? It's the document which captures all of the negotiated deal points of the project and serves as the formal contract between the city and the developer related to a specific project. It includes, among other things, the project's development schedule, which is Exhibit C in this development agreement, and the estimated project budget, which is included in this as Exhibit D. The redevelopment agreement, there's a lot of legal language in there, but it also defines events of default and any related cure periods. Those are all addressed in Section 9.01. Events of default could include failure to timely complete construction, failure to maintain insurance, failure to attain or maintain the sustainability requirements, or the failure to perform any other duties outlined in the redevelopment agreement. And then the redevelopment agreement also outlines the remedies on default available to the city. We have the opportunity to withhold reimbursements, can terminate the redevelopment agreement, or we can terminate the TIF district. Other key terms in this agreement, Section 3.02 telegraphs the city's intent to issue industrial revenue bonds or IRBs, which would allow the developer to qualify for a sales tax exemption on construction materials. That has been factored, the value of that sales tax exemption was factored into Mr. Kimmel's analysis in calculating that estimated internal rate of return. But the city council, you will consider a separate resolution of intent. So there are two items on your agenda this evening. The effective date of the ordinance, which is when the 20-year TIF clock begins, is January 1st, 2030. TIF revenues will be reimbursed, as I mentioned, on a pay-as-you-go basis, meaning the city will issue no bonds in connection with this project. The developer and the city will share revenues over the 20-year TIF term, which could vary, as I mentioned, based on meeting specific sustainability criteria. And then the developer will pay a one-time IRB origination fee of either $350,000 if they achieve the sustainability credits, or $500,000 if they attain 2 Green Globes without the specific criteria. The city engaged, next slide, a sustainability consultant to assist in determining Green Globe criteria that would be equivalent to the LEED Silver certification. This project is going to be designed and built, we anticipate, to the 2018 commercial code standards. By building to code, the project will already be at a base LEED certification and or would achieve 1+ Green Globes. That's been one of the things that the sustainability consultant has been able to help us understand and sort through. So your base code is going to get you a certain level that, for example, because Mr. Floodman's here, but his lanes project was built under the 2012 building codes. And so those same standards didn't apply. So we're making progress, I think, as everybody is aware, with each new iteration of our building codes. The specific criteria for Green Globes that was included in the development agreement really focuses on the long-term performance of the building. And again, as I'd mentioned, there's a tiered incentive that's recommended as follows. And I won't run through all of these. You have a chance to read them. But again, either LEED Silver certification or 2 Globes using the newest Green Globe certification, and then being very specific in terms of categories and a number of points to be captured under each of those categories. And again, that basically satisfies in the Green Globe route, it meets all the prerequisites for LEED Silver. Again, I mentioned if the developer achieves that, it's a 90, 85, 80, 60% revenue share, $350,000 IRB origination fee. And if they obtain the 2 Globes without meeting those criteria, those percentages are reduced, with more money coming to the city, and the IRB origination fee is increased to $500,000. So really next steps, you have later on your agenda this evening. We have an ordinance, and the ordinance accomplishes several things. So we have to amend the existing TIF district because the project is different. It will adopt the redevelopment agreement. It establishes the effective date of the ordinance and when the 20-year TIF clock begins. And then you have a separate resolution of intent for IRBs, which is also an item on your later on your agenda. I believe there's 7A and 7B on your agendas. One thing, and be happy, I can answer questions. Again, I mentioned representatives from the developer and their attorneys here. I know it's always a difficult conversation as we talk about incentives. We'd hope to have it teed up for you this evening, but it's likely coming forward next month. We're going to be bringing forward a recommendation to terminate an existing TIF district because it has paid off 5 years early. So that's, I think, a win for all of us, and excited to see that. So happy to answer any questions you might have.
All right.
If there's anybody from the public.
Questions for Laura? Yeah, Debbie?
We're doing industrial revenue bonds, but you said the no bonds you're referring to are municipal bonds.
Correct.
Okay. Secondly, when did the pay-as-you-go concept come in under TIF?
It's been a part of it from the beginning.
We've not used it on like the gateway.
Yeah, well, we have. In fact, we've used pay-as-you-go on all of our other TIF and CID projects up to this point. The only project we have ever discussed bonds for was the Gateway. And I believe in the last iteration, that had even been whittled back. I mean, we started 20 years ago with general obligation bonds for that site. At the end, any bonds that would have been issued in connection with that project would have been special obligation bonds. But we haven't issued bonds. We've used pay-as-you-go on every other CID and TIF project in the city.
Thank you. One quick question about the refund you said could be spent in the district. The district for this purpose is that one project, correct?
The city TIF revenues can be spent within that district or maybe likely immediately adjacent. We'll have to work through some of those things. But yes, it is that parcel. But part of that was looking at some longstanding conversations about enhancing Metcalf and or signalization and access, and enhancing the safety and access onto Metcalf.
So it's an option to go outside that parcel.
Yes.
Any other council questions? Yeah, Leah?
The effective date of the ordinance when the 20-year TIF clock begins will be January 1st, 2030. That I just wanted to get more information. Why 5 years out?
So it's actually, it sounds like 5 years. It's not technically 5 years, but it has to do, and I think what you will see is that if the developer builds this on the schedule that they anticipate, they will likely be back in front of you asking to move that TIF clock up. One of the things that they had asked for and we had agreed to was to give them time to get the construction drawings in place, to get their financing in place, to start construction. But I think we feel comfortable that there are enough incentives in other places that we can move to that schedule. There will be things that will be occurring, demolition of the existing building, other things, ahead of that 5-year implementation of the TIF clock.
And that's specified in the schedule, right, in the development agreement.
Correct.
Yeah, Ben?
Laura, do I recall correctly that TIF is the incentive vehicle that the school district has to consent to? Or am I thinking of something else?
They must, at the time the original district is formed,
Okay.
and then we notify them of TIF project plans, but they do not have the opportunity for the school district and the county to veto a proposal is at the time the district is established.
Okay. And not too dissimilar of a project, really, that we would be wildly concerned about them changing their minds then?
No.
Yeah.
Your legal counsel sitting behind me wouldn't let us get out on a limb that
Yeah,
far.
All right, seeing no more council questions, if there are any members of the public that would like to make a comment on the tax increment financing redevelopment project plan, now would be the time. If you are participating through Zoom, please either add your comment in the chat feature and it will be read out loud, or note that you would like to be called on and we will call on you to make your comment verbally. Please remember your comments or questions are visible to everyone in the meeting. If you are part of our in-person group tonight, please raise your hand but stay seated and we will call on you to come to the lectern to make your comments. When you make your comment, please state your name and city of residence for the record. Also be conscientious of others trying to speak and speak slowly and clearly. If I need to confirm something that may have been difficult to hear, I will ask for clarification. Do we have any public comment? Justin, anyone online? Seeing no hands here, I will now formally close the public hearing on the 5665 Foxridge Tax Increment Financing Redevelopment Project Plan. This item will be voted on later in our meeting agenda tonight. Our second public hearing this evening is related to the Mission Mart Community Improvement District, which was also continued from the February 19th, 2025 meeting. I will now officially open the public hearing. Laura, will you please make your presentation?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Again, similar to the presentation we just saw for 5665 Foxridge, wanted to bring all of the details of this request for Community Improvement District into one presentation and bring it back before you this evening. So similar to this next slide, please. Project overview here, we have Mission Mart is the city's largest retail center. It was constructed between 1951 and 1978 with a gross leasable area of just slightly over 129,000 square feet. They currently have 26 active tenants in 3 buildings with 310 plus parking spaces. The developer Ridgeview North Associates came to us earlier and submitted a petition to create a CID or Community Improvement District that would allow for improvements focused on facade, building upgrades, and really attracting tenants that are committed to mission and looking to grow their businesses here. So the total estimated project costs over the next several years are about $7.5 million in upgrades. Total CID eligible costs are about 3.6 million. And total estimated CID revenues over the course of a 22-year period are 2.75. So you will see in both of the agreements, and I should have mentioned this in the previous public hearing, there's a cap on both TIF expenses and CID expenses. And in both instances, that cap is higher than what we anticipate to be generated in revenue. So there's kind of an artificial, there's a formal cap, but there's one that is typically in place. And that's not uncommon on most of the other agreements that we have had where the expenses are typically going to be higher. Again, next several slides are slides you've seen before. This is Johnson Drive perspective, kind of that main entryway through the Martway facade, Johnson Drive facade from a little higher view, and the northeast end along Johnson Drive looking to the west. So a community improvement district is, again, another statutory incentive tool that allows for a new tax to be imposed within a community improvement district. So that can take 2 different forms. It can be up to 2% in a retailer sales tax, or it can be a special assessment component. CID revenues can be used for much broader purposes than TIF, for example. So you may recall that TIF eligible expenses typically aren't allowed for vertical construction. So in CID, vertical construction, some operating expenses can be used much more broadly than they can under a TIF. But the city, through the terms of a development agreement, may restrict those uses as a matter of policy. The CID is created by a petition of property owners that requires public notice and public hearing, which is where we are this evening. In this instance, although there are multiple tenants, the property is under a singular ownership. But I do know that the mayor had asked that the developers team reach out and share the information about tonight's public hearing with their existing tenants. And I believe Mr. Floodman, at least a couple of weeks ago, had heard from a couple of them. We, as the city, have not heard from any of the tenants regarding the CID proposal. Financial analysis, again, just a recap of the information and the analysis that Mr. Kimmel has done. Ridgeview North is requesting a 1% CID sales tax for a period of up to 22 years. So TIF maximum time period 20 years, CID maximum time period is 22 years. Or until they're reimbursed that cumulative total of about $3.5 million. There's no interest component on the pay-as-you-go reimbursement. If approved, the additional CID sales tax would go into effect on July 1st of this year. Over that 22-year maximum CID term, they expect to spend at least $7 million on property improvements, particularly as existing tenant spaces turn over and may require significant improvements. Initial CID tax collections are estimated at about $90,000 a year, with gradual growth as taxable sales volume increase. But nonetheless, it's anticipated through his analysis that the project will reach that 22-year maximum before reaching the cumulative reimbursements of $3.5 million. The Ridgeview North Associates had pledged not to request an increase in the CID tax at a future date, and it has agreed to submit all CID reimbursement requests no later than July of 2030, so 5 years from the start of collections, again signaling their intent to make that initial $3.5 million of improvements early in their ownership of the property. According to Mr. Kimmel, his conclusion was that the planned improvements will enhance the appearance and structural integrity of the Mission Mart, and that the proposed 1% CID tax is a legitimate and reasonable use of this sales tax tool. In the redevelopment agreement, again, similar to the one for the TIF project, this is the contract between the developer and the city, includes the development schedule, estimated project budget, and then defines events of default and remedies of default. Again, there are no specific sustainability criteria in this performance agreement or redevelopment agreement. So that's slightly different than what you will consider in the TIF development agreement. Key terms in this plan, again, 1% retailer sales tax effective July 1st for 22 years. In this instance, the developer is receiving 100% of the CID sales tax revenues. This is an additional sales tax, so the city doesn't lose. We still continue to generate what we are already generating, and this additional sales tax is collected and then distributed separately back to the city, where it's certified against eligible expenses and then dispersed back to the developer. The disbursements are subject to the public-private ratio, which ensures that the reimbursements are paid on a 50-50 basis between private funds and the CID sales tax funds. The development agreement commits them to commencing improvements within 6 months of the CID sales tax start date. And then no later than 5 years from commencement, they have agreed to submit certification for the general and parking lot upgrades, landscaping, common area upgrades, facade improvements, roof repairs, and at least 50% of the interior improvements and HVAC repairs. Again, we felt it was important that that initial investment be made early in the project. So that's all I had. Again, next steps here, you have an ordinance which would establish the district. It will appear later on your agenda, I believe item 7C, to establish the district and approve the redevelopment agreement. And Mr. Floodman is here, and I'm sure would be happy to stand for any questions.
Questions for Laura or Banks on this one? Yeah, Debbie?
Just a comment, as we look at improvement on parking, I would look to consideration of pervious parking, pervious concrete. It's such a large area. It's a great project. I'm thrilled to death. The benefit of the community is widespread in this. I would really like to see at some point, if you're going to do improvements on parking, that you go to pervious parking. Thanks.
Any other comments or questions? Seeing none from council, if there are any members of the public that would like to make a comment on the Mission Mart Community Improvement District, now would be the time. If you are participating through Zoom, please either add your comment in the chat feature and it will be read out loud, or note that you would like to speak and we will call on you shortly to make your comments verbally. Please remember your comments or questions are visible to everyone in the meeting. If you are part of our in-person group tonight, please raise your hand but stay seated and we will call on you to come to the lectern to make your comments. When you make your comment, please state your name and city of residence for the record. Also be conscientious of others trying to speak and speak slowly and clearly. If I need to confirm something that's difficult to hear, I will ask for clarification. Do we have any public comments? Seeing none in the room, none online, I will now formally close the public hearing on the Mission Mart Community Improvement District. This item will be voted on later in our meeting agenda. Okay, we already did our special presentations. So we are jumping on to issuance of notes and bonds. We do not have any items related to the issuance of notes or bonds this evening, so we will move on to our consent agenda. Our consent agenda consists of 7 items tonight. Our council committees met on March 5th and fully discussed each of these items. The committees agreed that the items listed on our consent agenda are routine enough to be considered under a single motion. If a council member or member of the public would like an item removed from the consent agenda, they may request that at this time. Otherwise, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mayor, I move the city council adopt the consent agenda as printed, items 4A through 4G.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Justin, please call the roll.
Josie,
Aye.
Kring, Carpenter Davis,
Aye.
Ryhard,
Aye.
Loudon,
Aye.
Schmid,
Aye.
Hayden Champozy.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, next we'll move into public comments. If any members of the public would like to make a comment on items that are not included on our agenda tonight, now would be the time. Again, if you are participating through Zoom, please either add your comment in the chat feature and it will be read out loud, or note that you would like to speak and we will call on you shortly to make your comment verbally. Please remember your comments or questions are visible to everyone in the meeting. If you are part of our in-person group tonight, please raise your hand but stay seated and we will call on you to come to the lectern to make your comments. When you make your comment, please state your name and city of residence for the record. Also be conscientious of others trying to speak and speak slowly and clearly. If I need to confirm something that may have been difficult to hear, I will ask for clarification. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. Do we have any comments on items not on our agenda? Anyone online, Justin? Seeing none, we'll move into action items from our planning commission. We do not have any items coming forward tonight from the planning commission, so we will move into our committee reports. First up, Councilmember Schmidt, will you please provide a report from Finance and Administration Committee?
I will, thank you. The Finance and Administration Committee met on March 5th and considered 7 items. The meeting minutes, funding agreement for 5101 Johnson Drive, resolution for city-sponsored festival and events, and purchase of rugged tablet and keyboard using special law enforcement trust forfeiture funds were approved under the consent agenda earlier tonight. A tax increment financing ordinance for 5665 Foxridge, resolution of intent for IRBs for 5665 Foxridge, and an ordinance establishing the Mission Mart CID will be considered under the regular agenda this evening. Item 7A, tax increment financing ordinance for 5666 Foxridge. The Silvercrest Redevelopment Tax Increment Financing, or TIF district, is comprised of one parcel of property located at the southeast corner of 56th Street in Foxridge, addressed as 5665 Foxridge. The property currently houses a one-story office building, approximately 40,000 square feet, that was built in 1970. Formerly the JCPenney Call Center, this building has been vacant for nearly 2 decades. Under a previous development proposal, the Silvercrest Redevelopment TIF district was established in May 2017. The developer ultimately decided not to pursue their proposed project, so although the underlying TIF district was created, no tax increment financing or development project plan was ever submitted or approved. In 2022, Block Real Estate Services LLC submitted plans for construction of a 307-unit multifamily development on the site. The plans provided for a 4 to 5 story, depending on the facade, multifamily building constructed on top of a concrete podium parking structure. The development includes a mix of studio, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and 3-bedroom apartments. It also offers an outdoor patio area with a pool, grill, game area, and seating, as well as indoor amenities that will include a lounge, workout facility, leasing offices, and a multi-purpose room. The development was designed to provide connectivity with the streets around it, as well as connections to Broadmoor Park to the west and retail and services to the south along Johnson Drive. The project not only addresses a blighted parcel of property, but should serve as a catalyst for future redevelopment in Mission's West Gateway area. The preliminary development plan was considered and approved by the City Council in September of 2022, and a final development plan was approved by the Planning Commission in the spring of 23. After securing the zoning entitlements, Block Real Estate Services submitted a formal request for TIF to assist with the extraordinary redevelopment costs. The TIF statutes provide for specific public hearing requirements for consideration of a TIF redevelopment project plan, which have been met. The project has undergone a detailed review by the city's financial advisor, Bruce Kimmel of Ellers, Inc. The pro forma is analyzed and tested for reasonableness of the information and assumptions, and an analysis of the estimated rate of return for the developer with and without the incentives requested to determine the likelihood of the project proceeding without participation by the city. The redevelopment agreement is the document which captures the negotiated deal points of a project and serves as the formal contract between the developer and the city. The redevelopment agreement was prepared by Kevin Wimpy of Gilmore and Bell, PC, and represents the staff's recommendation for the project. The developer's team has reviewed and is in agreement on all terms included in the agreement. Highlights of the specific items were discussed during the presentation earlier on our agenda tonight. Council now has the opportunity to act on the request, with the first item being an ordinance. If approved, this ordinance accomplishes several things, including approval of a substantial change as defined in the TIFT Act to the district plan for redevelopment district to accommodate uses within the redevelopment district that differ from the original district plan adopted pursuant to ordinance number 1455. Adoption of a redevelopment project plan for the single project area within the redevelopment district in accordance with KSA 12-1770 as amended, and approval of a redevelopment agreement. The ordinance contains an effective date of January 1st, 2030, which will commence the 20-year clock for disbursement of TIF funds. Mayor, I move the City Council approve the ordinance, making findings, and 1, approving a substantial plan to an existing redevelopment district plan, 2, adopting a redevelopment project plan, and 3, approving the execution of a redevelopment agreement between the city and Foxridge Mission LLC.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Laura, did you want to explain one thing on the voting on this?
Thank you, Mayor. For those of you who have maybe not had the opportunity to vote on a TIF project plan, it does require a supermajority vote of the city council, so that would be 6 votes of the 9. Even though we have a vacancy, that's still counted in that total.
Okay, and so that's, 6 of the governing body.
Yes.
Perfect. All right, do we have any public comments on this item? Seeing none, do we have any further council comments and discussion? Yeah, Ben?
Yeah, just thinking about whether or not this project sort of makes it across the threshold for me. Spoiler alert, I think it does just make it across the threshold, but I'll tell you why. One big one is, as you just heard, sitting there making almost no property tax money for 20 years. And, you know, I remember back to an earlier meeting with the developers talking about what this project would look like without incentives. I think sometimes it's a matter of thinking like, is it a little profitable or a lot profitable? But I distinctly remember hearing them come in with a rate that would be like less than a savings account return. So that strikes me as I wouldn't do it either, right? The only other thing I think about is I hold this up to our tax abatement policy just as a kind of a yardstick for my personal comparison to what we have laid forth as our values for projects that receive public financing. And those are, you know, are things like our sustainable building practices and, you know, other factors that may or may not come into every project, like affordable housing and job creation and so on. But as far as I'm concerned, it stacks up to about a 70% tax abatement figure, which I think, again, this is just personal preference, is a reasonably good place for me to look to compare how I might treat a TIF plan. And, you know, averaging out these costs and TIF reimbursements and factoring in that IRB origination fee, I think we're about there roughly, right? So again, not a perfect translation from tax abatement to TIF, but for me, it satisfies what we've laid out as our criteria. 2 decades of nothing happening there, I think is a big motivator for me to vote yes for this.
Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, Justin, please call the roll.
Carpenter Davis.
Aye.
Josie,
Aye.
Kring, Hayden Jumposey,
Aye.
Schmid,
Aye.
Ryhard,
Aye.
Loudon.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right.
Great. Moves us on to item 7B, resolution of intent for IRBs at 5665 Foxridge. In addition to the request for tax increment financing, Block Real Estate Services has also submitted an application requesting the issuance of IRBs for the sole purpose of a sales tax exemption on construction materials. The city's bond counsel, Gilmore and Bell, has prepared a resolution which establishes the intent and authority of the city to proceed with the transaction. The IRBs and the associated interest shall be special, limited obligations of the city payable solely out of the amounts derived by the city under a lease agreement and funds provided for in the indenture. The resolution anticipates the issuance of bonds in an amount not to exceed $114,705,000. The issuance of bonds shall not directly, indirectly, or contingently obligate the city, the state, or any other political subdivision to levy any form of taxation or to make any appropriation for their payment. The city is in no way responsible for the repayment of these bonds. Mayor, I move the City Council approve the resolution establishing the intent and authority of the city to issue industrial revenue bonds in one or more series in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $114,705,000 to finance the cost of acquiring, constructing, and equipping multiple facilities for the 5665 Foxridge Drive project for the benefit of Foxridge Mission LLC.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any public comment on this item? Seeing none, any council comments or questions? Seeing none, Justin, please call the roll.
Ryard.
Aye.
Carpenter Davis.
Aye.
Kring. Josie.
Aye.
Hayden Chompozy.
Aye.
Schmid.
Aye.
Loudon.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Moving on to item 7C, the ordinance establishing the Mission Mart CID. In January 2025, Ridgeview North Associates LLC, which includes members of Sunflower Development Group, submitted a Community Improvement District or CID petition associated with proposed upgrades to the Mission Mart Shopping Center. The petition seeks to levy an additional 1% retailer sales tax effective July 1st, 2025 for a period of 22 years and identifies approximately that seems like a typo, 7 million in improvements, and upgrades to the shopping center up to 3.5 million, of which would be reimbursed on a pay-as-you-go basis from the CID revenues. The group seeks to maintain the character and history of the center, which includes 3 buildings constructed between 1951 and 1978. With over 129,000 square feet of leasable space and 26 active tenants, the request for the CID incentives is intended to modernize the space to ensure its long-term viability. The plan focuses on facade improvements and building upgrades with the intent not only of supporting local businesses, but also attracting new tenants and improving the overall experience for visitors to the center. State statute requires cities to pass a resolution calling a public hearing on the creation of a community improvement district. Missions Council passed Resolution 1208 in January 2025, giving notice of the intent to consider the petition and setting the date and time for a public hearing at the February 19th, 2025 City Council meeting. The public hearing was opened at the February 19th, 2025 meeting and immediately continued to tonight's meeting where it was officially closed. A CID sales tax must be considered and approved by the council, but it does not take away existing sales or property tax revenues generated by any impacted businesses. The council now considers an ordinance to authorize the creation of the Mission Mart Community Improvement District and executes a development agreement with Ridgeview North Associates, which governs the terms of the incentives to be provided to the developer for the project. Mayor, I move the City Council approve an ordinance authorizing the creation of the Mission Mart Community Improvement District, authorizing certain project improvements related thereto, approving the estimated costs of said improvements, levying a Community Improvement District sales tax, and executing a development agreement between the City of Mission and Ridgeview North Associates.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any public comments on this item? Seeing none, any council comments or questions? Yes, Debbie?
I'm really enthused by this. This is a benefit to our community. They get something out of this. The apartments, not always, but this is great for the community at large. It's a great shopping venture. It's great that you're going to do improvements. The landscaping and everything looks really solid, and you've proven yourself in the past, and I look forward to getting more involved in this project because it looks great. Thank you.
Yeah, Ben?
Yeah, happy to restate that I like the project and I've enjoyed working with other projects that you brought to us. And again, just wanted to state that I largely view this as a property owner and their tenants levying a tax on themselves. And so that's more power to you, in my opinion.
All right, any further comments? Seeing none, Justin, please call the roll.
Schmid.
Aye.
Ryard.
Aye.
Kring.
Aye.
Loudon.
Aye.
Hayden Chompozy.
Aye.
Carpenter Davis.
Aye.
Josie.
Aye.
Motion carries.
And that concludes my report.
All right, next up, Councilmember Reichert, will you please provide a report from the Community Development Committee?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The Community Development Committee also met on March 5th and considered 6 items. The meeting minutes, interlocal agreement for the Rock Creek improvements, interlocal agreement for public improvements to 63rd Street, the 2025 Cars Project, and MFAC Green Slide Restoration were approved under the consent agenda earlier tonight. The award for Safe Streets for All, or Safe Streets and Roads for All, Transportation Safety Action Plan and Planning Sustainable Places Grant Sponsor Agreement for the Rock Creek Trail West Corridor Improvement Study from Woodson to Metcalf will be considered under the regular agenda this evening. 7D, the award for Safe Streets for All Transportation Safety Action Plan. In 2023, the City of Mission, with support from the Kansas Department of Transportation, applied for the Safe Streets and Roads for All Planning Grant. This federally funded program aims to reduce traffic-related fatalities and serious injuries for all roadway users, including pedestrians, bicyclists, public transit riders, motorists, micromobility users, and commercial vehicle operators. As part of the grant application, the city outlined a plan to develop a Transportation Safety Action Plan or TSAP. The TSAP will build on the priorities established in the city's comprehensive plan, adopted in December 2023, and will formally commit to a goal of eliminating traffic fatalities and serious injuries. In December 2023, the city was awarded a total project grant of $200,000, which includes $160,000 in federal funding, $30,000 in KDOT funding, and a $10,000 local cost share. The city finalized an agreement with the Federal Highway Administration on December 30th, 2024, allowing the project to move forward. A request for proposals was released in January 2025, and 6 proposals were received with 3 firms invited for interviews. The selection committee is recommending the contract be awarded to Burns & McDonnell, who was chosen based on their experience with similar projects, team approach including stakeholder and community engagement, and overall understanding of the city's needs. Because this project has federal funds attached, the requirement for a cost estimate was removed from the RFP. The Burns & McDonnell team is working on a scope and cost estimate for the city that is within the grant parameters and budget. The TSAP is expected to be completed within approximately 18 months. Upon completion, the plan will serve as a strategic roadmap for improving transportation safety across Mission and will enhance the city's ability to secure future federal funding for implementation. Mayor, I move the City Council award a contract for completion of the Safe Streets and Roads for All Transportation Safety Action Plan to Burns & McDonnell.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, any council comments or questions? Seeing none, Justin, please call the roll.
Loudon,
Aye.
Carpenter Davis,
Aye.
Schmid,
Aye.
Josie,
Aye.
Hayden Chompozy,
Aye.
Ryhard,
Aye.
Kring.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, moving on to 7E for Planning Sustainable Places Grant Sponsor Agreement for the Rock Creek Trail West Corridor Improvement Study from Woodson to Metcalf. Planning Sustainable Places is a program instituted through Mart using federal and state funding for local and county governments to implement sustainable place plans that address land use, transportation, and sustainability. Mission applied for and was awarded funding to conduct a project development study for the Rock Creek Trail East corridor from Woodson to Roland Drive in 2023. The intent of the item for consideration tonight is to mirror the efforts of the first Rock Creek Trail corridor study for the trail's western portion from Woodson to Metcalf. The study will address transportation and mobility challenges while seeking to improve the environment, promote health and safety, build social equity, and support economic development. Building a vibrant and active pedestrian and bicycle connection between the Metcalf commercial corridor to various community amenities and activity centers through Mission aligns with Mission's long-term vision. Additionally, the study will explore sustainable development opportunities that address transportation, green infrastructure, alternative energy, art, and community interaction in the public realm. The total project budget is $111,264 with $86,400 in grant funds, $24,000 in the city's local match, plus an administrative fee of $864, also paid by the city. Mark will issue a request for proposal for this project in March with a deadline for proposals in late April. Mayor, I move the City Council approve the Planning Sustainable Places Grant Sponsor Agreement between the City of Mission and the Mid-America Regional Council, or MARC, committing up to $24,864 in local match for $86,400 in federal funds used for the study of the Rock Creek Trail corridor improvements between Woodson Street and Metcalf Avenue.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, any council comments or discussion? Yeah, Ben?
Just excited to see the next part of this, moving ahead. The last phase was quite exciting as well, so this should be, I think just as interesting.
Yeah, Leah?
I already know the answer to this question, but I'm just going to ask it for the sake of listeners and for people who are interested. The funds in this grant are ours, correct? It's a done deal for the most part.
Yes, we have confirmed that these funds have been obligated, so they are available to us.
Thank you.
Great. All right. Any other questions? Seeing none, Justin, please call the roll.
Hayden Chompozy,
Aye.
Josie,
Aye.
Ryhard,
Aye.
Carpenter Davis,
Aye.
Kring,
Aye.
Schmid,
Aye.
Loudon,
Aye.
motion carries.
That concludes my report.
Okay, great. We do not have any unfinished business tonight, so we'll move on to new business. We do have one item of new business, which is consideration of the purchase of radio equipment for Public Works. Ms. Boyce, would you please provide a report on this item?
Yes, thank you. City staff is asking to approve a purchase of 16 mobile and 4 handheld radios and the necessary components and programming not to exceed $49,552.72. The 2025 budget includes $45,000 for the replacement of the Public Works aging handheld and mobile radios. The current radios have exceeded their useful life, and the replacement parts are no longer available. So if they go out, we lose that radio. So to ensure a seamless transition, staff solicited 3 quotes from 2 primary radio vendors in the metro area for those 16 mobile and 4 handheld radios, including those necessary components and programming. The quotes were outlined in the agenda item. And based on the research and previous experience, staff determined that the Tate radios offered a reliable, durable, and cost-effective and easy-to-install solution, which meets our department's needs. Due to a price increase in November of 2024, the total cost exceeds the budget amount that we had programmed in the budget. So we have remaining budget in a line item earmarked for other public works equipment. So we plan to use that to cover the increase in the radio costs. And so, yeah, we're asking for approval.
Great. Thank you. First, is there any member of the public who would like to comment on this issue? Seeing none, any council comments or questions? Yeah, Leah?
Considering the work that your group does, especially in horrible, terrible weather, I think it's really important that they be able to communicate and that everyone who needs a radio gets a radio. So yes, I'm very much behind this.
We appreciate that.
Any other comments? Yeah, Ben?
Okay, I'm gonna try not to get too wonky and nerdy with this, but are these radios largely same technology, what you're already using?
Yeah, so they're the radios that we can communicate to one another. We can communicate with PD through our citywide
Okay.
channel.
That's my next question. I was
Yep.
reading that this looks like it works with the police
Yep.
radios as well. Great. Thank you.
Not too wonky.
Well, I could have gotten into P25.
go further.
Encryption and Chiefs all, please don't.
Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the purchase of radio equipment for Public Works.
Mayor, I move the council approve the purchase of 16 mobile and 4 handheld radios and necessary components and programming not to exceed $49,522.72. $552.72.
Second.
Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any public comment on this? No. Any further council comments or questions? Seeing none, Justin, please call the roll.
Kring.
Aye.
Schmid,
Aye.
Josie,
Aye.
Loudon,
Aye.
Ryhard,
Aye.
Hayden Chompozy,
Aye.
Carpenter Davis,
Aye.
motion carries.
All right. There being no further business items for consideration, we will move into comments from the city council. This is an opportunity for comments from our council members. Does anyone from council have something they'd like to share this month? Yeah, Debbie?
Kudos and a shout out to Public Works. We had a gas leak at this house across the street from us and it took up several houses with flags and things. Well, the gas company, although very responsive, didn't answer a lot of questions, but Brent did on Public Works. He came right away and talked to them and had everything. just phenomenal responsiveness and communication skills on that public works group. It makes such a difference in the public. So I thank you. Secondly, I sit on the Solid Waste Commission for Johnson County, and we had a person come in that representing Pete's Garden, and Laura reminded me that we did an article on Pete's Garden in the Mission Magazine in 2023. It is the neatest concept. They take and they partner with several restaurants. There are 30 of them they're partnering right now with to alleviate food waste. So they get the food, they connect families with the timing of the food and everything, and they deliver. So they're asking for volunteers. I think my husband and I, this is one I'm really passionate about. I think it's awesome. Third thing, Rushton held its cultural day last Tuesday, and it was amazing. Parents and kids from all over came. 2 local businesses, Warner's and Kinsey, both provided food. They had the Gateway High Steppers who were in the St. Patrick's Day Parade. They won last year, #1. I didn't see what their score was this time, but awesome. The cultural day was a big hit, and Rushton did an amazing job. It was a great opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah, Josefa?
I just want to say on behalf of the 3 council members who went to the National League of Cities Convention, Congressional Cities Convention last week, what a privilege it was for all of us to be able to go and represent Mission and also learn quite a bit, I think, about some of the questions that we have been discussing here in our council. I know that I made a number of excellent connections. Hopefully we can get some insight into how cities similar to ours also manage similar problems. And yeah, just wanted to put it on the record that it was really valuable. And so, yeah.
Yeah, Leah?
Yeah, just to piggyback on that, we did get to meet with Representative Sharice Davids and Senators Moran and Marshall and talk about how important municipal bonds are to cities like ours for being able to afford projects, how important it is that we get grants that have been, in the pipeline, and how inefficient it would be to stop construction on some of these projects if grants weren't received. Affordable housing was a huge topic that was talked about from one end to another, and in our conversations with Marshall and Moran, and I felt like this year we really did something. I mean, we really were able to be the voice of our citizens and talk about things on a city level that, how federal decisions are affecting us, and yeah, it was great. We had so much fun and we ate really good food.
Ditto. So I don't think I could have much more, but yeah, it was truly transformative, I think, for all of us. So yeah.
Great. Yeah, Ben?
Yeah, first of all, thanks to the NLC delegation. What a critical time to be tackling some of these things and talking to some of these people. Enough said, but I just wanted to take an opportunity to celebrate a couple of city facilities. First of all, I was at Waterworks Park with the kids after school. I don't know, on one of these really nice days we've had. A, that was great park. But B, I sat there listening to several different families just talking about how great Waterworks and Mohawk Park are. So that was really nice to hear, and know that people are really enjoying those. I also, believe it or not, we had my son's first birthday party at the community center recently. And we also attended one of my daughter's friends' birthday parties at the community center. Just in case you all don't know, great spaces for birthday parties, great packages for birthday parties, really full service. I can't say enough good things about the experience. We've done 2 birthday parties there. So as a bit of an advertisement, if you need to rent space or throw a birthday party, take a look.
That's great.
It's really nice.
Any other comments? Seeing none, we'll move into our council committee liaison reports. These reports allow the entire governing body to stay up to date with the various activities of our boards, commissions, and committees. So first, Councilmember Loudon for sustainability.
Yes, indeed. We met earlier in the month. There's going to be a vacancy on the commission for wards 1 and 2. So if anyone from those areas, or really any ward, would like to join the Sustainability Commission, please do. There was also talk about having a youth council representative on the commission and create a structure for them that makes it really meaningful, and might be fun to have a youth representative on council altogether. It kind of fits with our community of all ages goals for both the council and the Sustainability Commission. And there were lots of talk of people who would help kind of make that happen. May will be the month that the Sustainability Commission will come and update us on things that they've got going on. Let's see, Christmas light recycling, they're going to change the dates and start that on December 1st and go until mid-January. So they catch those people that are putting the Christmas tree up and finding that their lights don't work. And then those at the end who, find that they still don't have lights that are working. And so making that a little bit longer, we hope to be able to collect more lights. October 18th, 2025 is the next Go Green Environmental Fair, which is very exciting. One of the aspects of this, it'll be new, will be a repair cafe coming. That will be run by an organization called Reuseful. So there will be people who can help you repair things and tools. They do pop-ups like this all over the city, so it's a great way to kind of help fix things instead of just putting them in the trash. There's also, we talked about composting in the park. It's like $12 a month to participate, and it's a way that we can boost community composting. So that might end up in Broadmoor Park. It sounds like there's already one at the market area. And it's run by Casey Can Compost.
And food waste composting.
Yes.
Yard waste composting.
Yeah, that's my report.
Great. Next we have, let's see. Councilmembers Kring and Schmidt for Parks, Recreation and Tree Commission.
We did a lot of talking about trees and people purchasing trees and the trees that are in existence, which ones can go the best. It's a bad term, but anyway, we also had somebody, while I'm on this topic, also had somebody ask me about the watering that the city is supposed to do around the trees that have been purchased, or what the situation is with watering the trees. Apparently there's a skirt of tubing that goes around that's supposed to have water in it. That's what was conveyed to me. Anyway, I'll get back with you, Penn. I think I left you a message, but yeah, I'll get back with you to find out, because I need to get back with the people to let them know what the city's responsibility is when it comes to watering the trees. We also talked some about the homeless population, and I talked to them about, Brian and I both talked about the discussions we've had on council about the dichotomy, kind of a concern with, a balance between looking out for the city and the citizens and looking out for people who can't afford to be somewhere else. So that was an interesting topic, but I'm sure Brian has more.
Yeah, my major note, so it's budget time for the group. That usually goes on for a little bit. But I mostly wanted to call out, I think it would be very easy for everybody just to rubber stamp those figures. But they read them line by line, like every budget item, which is pretty impressive, I think, for a volunteer, like non-professional group. Like they're not paid to do that. So I think the level of commitment and thought they put into prioritization for some of the projects is extremely impressive. So it's a very committed, very thoughtful approach. I think that's great.
All right, great. Next, we'll hear an update from Councilmembers Ryder and Shosse on the Mission Magazine editorial board.
Yeah, so magazine. So this issue, which I have a direct if anybody wants to come see it, it's looking really good. Is around building community. So there's a nice cover photo of the new Tyler's House location. Quite a bit of other really interesting stuff in there, like Mission Barbell and some of the community programs they offer. I know there's a Saturday bike ride from Prairie Sailor. There's a dad's group at Rushton. I think we're featuring the community cleanup event. Lots of other things. I'm happy to see calling out the Rock Creek Brewery for their contributions to the Family Adoption Committee over the years have been very significant. So yeah, really good looking issue and exciting stuff in there, I think. Look forward to that. Also dealing with some turnover at the publisher related and essentially, I think advertisers in the magazine can expect to hear from a new ad salesperson in the near future. Other than that, uploading on schedule, and I think we're good to go on that next issue.
Great. Finally, we have Councilmember Carpenter Davis with Family Adoption Committee.
We haven't met, but we'll meet again in, I guess, June, July. So keep you posted. Thanks.
Great. Next for our city administrators report, Laura, do you have any items you'd like to share with council tonight?
An email for new business updates. Just a couple of things. Thanks to Public Works, PD, and Parks for cleaning up after last Friday's storm events. Mother Nature just continues to remind us that she has a mind of her own. Hopefully when we all leave tonight, we don't have snow out there. Okay, then just a reminder, no work session next week. And as far as business updates, Jerusalem Cafe opened over the weekend with a grand opening on Sunday in the former Tortilla Ranch space in the Mission Crossing Shopping Center. Also Wonder and Woe, which is a cultural arts center for kids that focuses on creativity, culture, and connection, is now officially open at 5903 Johnson Drive, which is the former Tyler's House space. The grand opening, which was open to the entire community, was held on March 1st. And then happy 1-year anniversary to Fiorella's Boutique and Truly Madly Depot. Both businesses celebrated their 1-year anniversaries in Mission at the beginning of March with open houses and store-wide celebrations. So lots to celebrate in our business community. And then I will mention, you may see some posts and some information going out, but the police department will be hosting a kind of security forum discussion conversation next week for our local businesses, just sort of in reaction and response to some of the activity and concerns that they have. So that will be next Thursday morning, 8:30 a.m. at the community center.
Great. Yeah, Debbie?
I'm sorry, I failed to mention this. The police is offering a self-defense class. They're going to be doing some at Rushton. You want to expand on that, Dan?
I don't have the exact details on this one, but we often offer some self-defense classes to our community that just have some awareness training and some basic, self-defense methods that can be used in the event that you need them.
Great.
Do we have any further notice on Award 1 candidate? Yeah.
We had an applicant who Laura and I met with, and we are giving Josepha an opportunity to meet with as well, which I think is happening tomorrow. So hopefully more news to follow. All right. We do not have a need for an executive session this evening. So before we adjourn tonight, I want to share with the public that the video from this meeting will be available through a link on our website at missionks.org. There being no further business tonight, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So
Move
moved.
adjourned.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.